There comes a moment, silent, almost imperceptible, when something ancient within you stirs. A whisper, soft yet undeniable, says, "This isn't where you're meant to remain." Not in that job that numbs your spirit, not in the relationship that leaves you empty, not in the cycle of longing, reaching, and never quite arriving. Outwardly, life might seem acceptable, even admirable, but within, your soul is restless, and that unease you feel, it's not weakness, it's not failure. It's a sacred signal, a subtle resonance from the version of you who already walks in alignment, who lives in truth, whose reality reflects the highest frequency of your being. That version is not a distant fantasy, it exists. And more than that, it's entangled with you right now. Today we explore the quantum nature of that connection, not as metaphor, but as reality. This is not about wishful thinking or vague visualization. This is about physics, presence, precision. In the quantum field, everything you desire already exists, not as imagination, but as potential. And that potential isn't floating in the void. It's intertwined with your energy, waiting for resonance. Quantum entanglement isn't just a phenomenon of subatomic particles. It's a mirror of consciousness. Once two things are truly connected, distance dissolves. When one shifts, the other responds instantly. No signal, no delay. Now ask yourself, what if you are already linked to the version of yourself that has everything you long for? What if your thoughts, emotions, and actions in this very moment are influencing that timeline, either aligning or distorting it? You've been taught that manifestation is about asking, waiting, and hoping. But that's not the whole truth. You're not summoning a distant future, you're remembering it, reconnecting with it, reclaiming it. You're tuning into a frequency that has always existed, a signal that's been patiently waiting for you to match its vibration. And yes, that's why it feels hard sometimes, because one part of you is ready to leap, while another part clings to what's familiar. You're caught between the frequency of fear and the resonance of freedom, between survival and surrender, between logic and knowing. But quantum transformation doesn't bloom in comfort zones. It unfolds in resonance. So what if the ache you feel isn't because your dream life is far away, but because it's pressing against you, longing to collapse into form? What if the frustration isn't from absence, but from proximity? What if the future you're chasing is already present, hidden just beneath the static of your current signal? You don't need to force, fight, or fabricate. You need to attune. You need to stop broadcasting from fear and begin transmitting from belief. To remember, not invent. To embody, not escape. This isn't just a teaching, it's a transmission, a living frequency, encoded with a truth you've always known but perhaps forgotten. You are not a passive observer. You are a quantum being. Your energy doesn't just reflect reality, it shapes it. Every choice, every emotion, every breath entangles you further with one timeline or another. And the life you've been yearning for? It's not out there waiting to be constructed brick by brick. It's already humming beneath your skin, asking to be remembered, felt, received. So if you've been caught in that sacred tension between what is and what could be, stay here. Breathe deeper. You are not lost, you are tuning. And this space you're standing in, the space between, is not empty. It is holy. It is not just a moment. It is a living pulse in time, charged with infinite possibility. And when you learn to harmonize with its rhythm, when your inner world quiets and your energy crystallizes into coherence, the entire field begins to move in response. Not because the universe suddenly noticed you, but because you finally became still enough, clear enough to notice it. For centuries, we were taught that reality was fixed, a straight line, a solid wall, something out there that happened to us. But quantum physics has whispered a deeper truth, a truth that bends space, collapses time, and asks us to reconsider everything. At the heart of this mystery is entanglement, an unseen thread that binds particles, people, timelines. When two particles interact, they become so deeply intertwined that they no longer operate as separate things. Touch one, and the other feels it. instantly, not because of distance, not because of time, but because at the quantum level, separation is an illusion. Einstein once called it spooky action at a distance. But this is not just spooky. This is sacred, revolutionary, and it matters deeply to you. Because you too are not separate, not from the field, not from the version of you who already lives in wholeness, already moves with purpose, already embodies abundance and clarity. Once a quantum link is made, it transcends time and geography. And if your consciousness is non-local, if your awareness lives not just in your brain, but in the boundless quantum field, then every version of you that has ever existed or ever could is already encoded within it. Your ideal life isn't hiding in the distant future. It's here, now, imprinted in the invisible fabric of space, waiting for your vibration to tune itself to its frequency. Let's bring this closer. Imagine two souls, oceans apart, yet thinking of each other in the same moment. They dream similar dreams. They shift when the other shifts. This is not fantasy. This is entanglement, alive, awake, undeniable. Now look inward. Picture the version of you who has already become healed, empowered, free. You are entangled with that being. You always have been. And the moment you shift your state, you begin to pull that timeline into resonance. This is not metaphor. This is quantum mechanics. The field does not operate on location or sequence. It is a sea of possibility, waiting not for your effort, but for your frequency. When you exist in fear, in lack, in anxiety, you collapse into timelines that mirror those patterns. But when you rise into clarity, gratitude, love, you entangle with realities that already match that vibration. It's never been about force. It's always been about frequency. As Dr. Joe Dispenza teaches, the quantum field responds not to what you want, but to who you are being. This is where the power lives. Intention, infused with elevated emotion, creates coherence. And coherence is what makes the field respond. Imagine tuning a radio. Your highest self, your aligned life, is already broadcasting. But if you're on a different station, you'll never hear its song. You'll believe it doesn't exist. But it does. You only need to tune. You don't chase the signal. You become the receiver. And that is the secret. Entanglement is not a passive link. It is a living dialogue. Every choice, every thought, every emotion either strengthens or scrambles the signal. You are not only connected, you are constantly influencing the connection. Every repeated thought, every emotion you dwell in, each identity you step into or step away from, sends out a frequency. You are the transmitter, and the field is always listening. You've been taught manifestation is repetition, affirmations, scripting, techniques. But in the quantum world, it's not repetition that moves reality, it's alignment. That's why you can recite affirmations 1,000 times and still feel stuck. Because the words mean nothing if the energy behind them is dissonant. But when you become the vibration, when your inner world sings the same frequency as the reality you seek, the field has no choice but to echo it back. So yes, entanglement is scientific, but it's also profoundly spiritual. It says, you are not waiting on fate. You are not waiting on time. You are not waiting on the world to deliver your dream. You are waiting on resonance. The gap between who you are and who you long to become, it's already bridged. The connection is already there. The question is, are you tuned to it? When this truth drops in, your path changes. You stop striving to reach. You begin learning to resonate, not to attract, but to align. And that changes everything. It means no dream is ever too far. No future is ever truly distant. It means the field responds even when nothing seems to shift, because your vibration is shaping everything long before it manifests. But perhaps most importantly, it means that the self you choose to inhabit, moment by moment, is the key to unlocking the reality that has always been yours. So why hasn't it arrived yet? Why does that higher version of you, free, fulfilled, magnetic, still feel like a concept rather than a lived experience? Because you are not yet attuned. The entanglement is real. The link is active. But you haven't yet stepped into the vibration that aligns with it. This is not punishment. It's design. The quantum field gives you not what you want, but what you consistently are. Your emotional signature, your unconscious patterns, your felt identity. This is the language the universe understands, and most people, they speak in the vibration of the past. They wake up rehearsing the same emotional stories, frustration, lack, fear, not because they want to, but because their nervous system has been wired into them. They don't realize. We don't attract what we want. We entangle with what we feel. Each emotion is a frequency, and the field is only ever listening. It does not judge. It does not grant favors. It mirrors. If fear is your foundation, the field echoes fear. If scarcity is your baseline, life responds in echoes of lack. This isn't punishment, it's precision. The universe doesn't deny you. It simply reflects the signal you forget you're sending. And here's the unsettling truth. Most of it is happening below your awareness. Your subconscious, shaped by childhood, wounds, cultural stories. Projects a reality not of desire, but of familiarity. Even if it hurts, what's familiar feels safe. And so you repeat it. Same cycles, same pain, same limitations. Not because you're broken, but because your frequency is still married to the version of you you're trying to outgrow. You can't tune into a higher timeline while defending the emotional gravity of the old one. You can't collapse new possibilities while rehearsing the stories that kept you small. You must become incompatible with who you no longer wish to be. You must interrupt the emotional rituals that bind you to lack. Because manifestation isn't about how beautifully you journal. It's about how consistently you vibrate when life feels messy, when you're tired, doubting, triggered. In those moments, the universe is not responding to your words. It's responding to your field. And your field is not made of intentions. It's made of embodiment. You ask why change feels so hard? It's not your fault. It's just that you're still entangled with the self who believes it has to be hard. And the field, unwavering, neutral, keeps reflecting that identity. You visualize expansion, but breathe in contraction. You script abundance, but walk in hesitation. And so, life does what it always does. Echoes your essence. But this is the moment. This is where the power returns to your hands. Because the moment you see it, you shift it. You stop chasing and start aligning. You stop asking and start remembering. Reality doesn't change because you wish it to. It changes because you match the version of you who already lives there. And once you do, the outer world must obey. That is quantum law. You don't need to do more. You need to become more coherent, more present, more congruent with the world you say you want. The field doesn't respond to your effort. It responds to your resonance. That's why some manifest with ease. Not because they're special, but because they're emotionally clear. So ask yourself, what emotions am I rehearsing that keep me bound to a story I no longer believe? What beliefs am I still broadcasting, even as I outgrow them? And am I willing to let them go? Not because they're wrong, but because they no longer fit who I've chosen to become? The moment you do, the version of you that's been waiting in the unseen responds. Synchronicities bloom, paths reveal, not because they just arrived, but because you finally tuned in. So the question is no longer, how do I get there? The real question is, how do I become the one who already lives there? And the answer is not in effort, it's in coherence, a deep inner resonance that speaks louder than words. Not magic, not superstition, but presence, precision, in the quiet persistence of a soul choosing alignment. Every single morning, asking not what the world demands, but who am I entangled with today? There are two versions of you, one still tangled in fear and familiar loops, and one already free, aligned, clear. This second self isn't a distant goal, but an active frequency pulsing through the now. Your first step? Name that version. Not with surface fantasy, but with emotional texture. Feel their morning breath. Sense their knowing about love, about money, about time. What do they no longer chase? What do they trust without hesitation? What is effortless for them? Then comes embodiment, not the grand leap, but the sacred micro-move. You clean your space, not to tidy, but because it's the sanctuary your future self inhabits. You speak, not from who you were, but from who you're remembering yourself to be. Grounded, graceful, certain. You say no to echoes of your old timeline, and yes to the quiet pull of the new. Each small act becomes a vibrational signal, a declaration that you're not manifesting from lack, but stabilizing your inner resonance. And the field responds. Now we shift deeper into emotional encoding. You close your eyes, you breathe slowly, and you feel, not a wish, but the truth of the self you are already becoming. You don't visualize the dream, you embody the dreamer, and more than anything, you feel gratitude, certainty, joy. Not because it's visible, but because it's already real in the unseen. This is not wishful thinking. This is neuroplasticity in motion, quantum entrainment activated. Do this long enough, consistently enough, and the gravity of the old identity weakens. You stop resonating with old energies, with patterns that once felt like home. That's not loss. That's vibrational liberation. You're not breaking apart. You're breaking free. You're no longer tuned to the version that blocked the signal. You're syncing with the one who's been transmitting it all along. So here's the invitation. Not a technique, not a shortcut, a daily ritual of remembrance. Morning. Who am I entangled with? Afternoon. What micro-action reaffirms this version of me? Evening. What frequency do I fall asleep with? Contraction or coherence? You don't need perfection. You need repetition. Because each time you choose again, you strengthen the signal. And soon the field begins to mirror it back. Not magic, resonant physics. So if your soul feels this, don't just hear it, embody it. If your body tingles with recognition, declare it. Comment, I am synced. Let the field know. Let your future self feel your signal. Let your subconscious recalibrate. This is not a comment. It's an energetic signature, a vibrational anchor. You are not waiting anymore. You are not hoping. You are transmitting. And in that moment, the universe begins to organize itself around your coherence. Most think nothing is happening. They meditate, they visualize, they repeat affirmations. But when the outside stays the same, they assume it's broken, that they are broken. But here's the deeper truth. The field is always responding, not sometimes, not only when you're high vibe, always. The challenge isn't activation, it's perception, because the field mirrors your dominant frequency, not your fleeting wish, not what you hope for in a single moment, but what you've embodied day after day. Your thoughts, your emotions, your subconscious stories. They've been writing the code and the evidence. It's in your relationships, in your body, in your bank account, in your sense of time and ease. Not punishment, not reward, just resonance. The quantum field doesn't respond to emotional spikes, it responds to energetic consistency. You could have one moment of powerful clarity and 20 hours of practiced doubt. What will the field mirror? Your brightest moment or your most repeated signal? And this is where most get stuck, caught between the self they desire and the one they keep reinforcing. But here's where the shift begins. When you stop craving the massive sign and start honoring the small whisper, the quiet number, the sacred pause, the gentle nudge that says, you don't need to prove anything today. You're already enough. These moments are not insignificant. They are fragments of coherence, micro-alignments that collapse timelines. Your dream life doesn't arrive with fireworks. It crystallizes with permission. One honest word, one act of surrender, one aligned choice that makes no sense but feels like truth. These are quantum levers, small hinges that move entire realities. The field doesn't need your struggle, it needs your congruence. And the moment you begin to trust its feedback, to read energy instead of proof, you'll feel something shift. The field isn't distant, it's intimate, it's alive, and it's listening for who you are now, not who you're hoping to become someday. So tune in, Act from alignment, even if nothing has changed yet. Choose resonance, even when your mind craves proof. Because the proof comes after coherence. The shift happens after the internal agreement. And the universe? It's not testing you, it's mirroring you. What if the key was never to chase, but to become? You are not meant to pursue your highest self as if it's a distant dream. You are meant to embody it now. The universe does not respond to volume. It responds to resonance. It doesn't react to how loudly you affirm, but how consistently you vibrate. Hold the emotional frequency of the version of you who already lives in fulfillment, not once, not sometimes, but as a way of being. Live in that energy long enough and reality will reshape around you. Not because you forced it, but because you matched it. The quantum field isn't moved by momentary hype. It listens for what is steady, not the adrenaline of one meditation, but the coherence of a lifestyle. Not the glitter of a vision board, but the integrity of your everyday presence. That is how timelines collapse. That is how desire leaves the realm of potential and becomes form. So pause and ask yourself honestly, am I aligned with the self I say I want to become? Do my habits whisper my future or echo my past? Am I tuned in or simply trying to override reality with noise? You cannot deceive the field. It reads your signal, not your slogans. You don't need to push harder. You need to tune deeper. And when you do, when your thoughts, actions, and emotions begin to harmonize with the version of you who is already free, the quantum responds. Not in some distant someday, but now. There is a sacred stillness in every transformation, a void that feels like nothingness, but is actually the fertile silence where worlds are reassembled. Most people fear that space, but that's exactly where the magic happens. When you stop chasing, when you release the static of desperation, you become a clear signal, and clear signals collapse reality. In quantum physics, there's a threshold called decoherence, the moment a possibility becomes an observable fact. It doesn't arise through effort. It emerges through stability, through presence, through coherence. And in the unseen world, coherence is born in silence, not the absence of sound, but the absence of inner noise, the worry, the overthinking, the mental interference of needing to know how. When you transcend the need to control, you stop creating from force and start manifesting from frequency. You become a living, breathing tuning fork for the timeline you were born to live. You stop pleading, you stop pushing, you stop vibrating from lack, and in that still, rooted space, reality bends. Not because you screamed, but because you finally whispered the exact frequency it had been waiting for. This is the paradox of quantum manifestation. The less you strive, the faster it arrives. The more you embody, the quicker it reflects. You're not here to pull miracles from thin air. You're here to remember what's already yours. You're not building your dream life brick by brick. You're receiving it vibration by vibration. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to figure it all out. You just need to become available to the version of you that already knows, already loves, already expands in peace and purpose. That version is not far. It's entangled with you now, waiting silently, patiently, for you to emit the signal that says, I remember, I'm ready, I'm here. So let this truth settle into your bones. The real shift doesn't happen with fireworks. It begins in the quiet, in the small, invisible choices, the ones no one applauds, the ones that say, I am no longer resonating with what I've outgrown. And if this message stirred something inside you, a stillness, a knowing, a resonance, then you're already collapsing timelines. You don't need signs, you don't need proof. The field is already listening, it's already responding. All that remains is trust. If this message awakened something deep within you, if you felt yourself remembering rather than just learning, then don't let the frequency fade. Comment below with the words, I am the signal. Let the field witness your clarity. And if you're ready to anchor even deeper, subscribe not just to follow, but to align. Because here we don't chase realities, we become them. And those who become are the ones who collapse time.